all the way throughout your life, you're going to come across this tough question. Which way will you choose? The question is, do you go for what's comfortable? Do you do what's safe? Or do you go for what you really want? And when I asked that question of myself, I started asking myself questions about who I was. Who am I? Am I going to stay on this path in banking? I liked banking. I liked banking a lot. I enjoyed it a lot. I worked for Goldman Sachs. I had a great job, but I didn't love it. And I asked myself, do I want to stay in a career that I really enjoy, or do I want to find that life that I truly love? And the decision that I made was that life was too short. When I drew up this pie chart of my life, there was only a small sliver of my life that was not related to my career. And so I said, am I going to be able to create the life I truly love if every day I'm doing something that I enjoy and I enjoy a lot, but I don't love? And the real challenge with this is this great book by Jim Collins, Good to Great. To give up what is good and go for great involves a certain way of thinking. And it's a way of thinking that says, do you chase what you love in life? Because it's risky. Think about relationships. You can be with someone who it makes absolute sense and it's a good partner. Or you can be with someone that you truly, truly love. And there's risk there. There's great risk there in your career. If you get passionate about what you're doing and you fail, you've put something on the line. I see this every day. When I'm working with folks on Wall Street, every day you come across questions like this. Are you going to make partner this year? Maybe. What are you doing to make partner? Well, we'll see how it goes. And how many of those folks made partner last year? Very few of them. Because the people who make partner are the ones who really go after it. But when you really go after something, you run the risk that you fail. Many people choose the sorts of careers we're talking about because they see them as ways where they can, as one of my friends said yesterday who works for a buyout fund, he said, it's a low-risk way to be successful in life. And I would argue Wall Street's not a low-risk way to be successful anymore. It might have been. It's not low-risk anymore. Wall Street's fundamentally changing, and that will continue. How many of you remember this speech? How many of you love this speech? How many of you know what it means for you? What does that mean for you? To follow your heart, have the courage to follow your intuition. How many of you really know what that means for you? And how many of you will follow it? How many of you will truly follow your intuition? Will follow your heart? Will go for what you really want? Because there's a real risk with this, and there's a real problem with this, and this is the problem. You're smart people. You're not built like Steve Jobs. You're not built like Steve Jobs because you're here. Steve Jobs wouldn't have been here. Steve Jobs was built in a certain way, and smart people know this. They know that follow your passion, do what you love, and money will follow, also equals starving artist. There are plenty of people in the world who are following their passion. Yet how many of them are creating the sort of life you want? And are you really willing to risk it, to go after what you really love, with the risk that you follow your passion and end up as a starving artist? There are very few people I know who are oriented towards Wall Street careers who would do that. And so when it comes down to it, you're not going to make those choices because no matter how many times you read that speech or you watch Steve Jobs speak, you're running this type of thought process. And this is the way we think, by the way. This is a real simple mental hack. This is a mind hack for you to work your brain, to run your own brain. Thoughts lead to feelings, feelings lead to actions. So you read this Steve Jobs speech and you get all inspired, you get all fired up about it. Then you come down to, how does that feel? Well, you know, it actually feels like jumping off a cliff. That feels really scary to chase something that may be a little bit different to what you might have chased otherwise. And so that leads to the action. The action is you don't do it. And so how do you change that? How do you interject into that process? You begin feeding different thoughts into your mind. What might those thoughts be? It all depends on what you're trying to do. Steve Jobs was built a certain way. There's a lot of myths in our society where people say, well, overcome your fears and overcome your risks and follow guys like Steve Jobs, but you're not built the way he is. In a whole series of ways, he was a very special man. And one of the reasons is that the words like fear and failure didn't really resonate with him. And this is really what comes down to the essence of my work. People forward around that speech by Steve Jobs, they tell me how inspired they are. It doesn't matter to me. The question is, are you doing things that are inspired? His message wasn't be inspired by me. His message was go out and do things that you're inspired to do. Go out and become your own person. And in my world, I help people do very hard things. I work with very senior level folks on Wall Street, in politics, other leaders, and I help them do very hard things. And I do that by this type of diagram. I recruit these people. I'm looking for people who do hard things. Most people don't. Most people gave up on that a long time ago. They once challenged themselves to be the best they could be, but now they're pursuing something a little bit easier. They're not living on their edge. If you do hard things and you want to succeed, do you believe that you can? Truly believe that you can? Maybe in a maniacal way, like Steve Jobs, who truly believed that he could do anything. You have to have a desire to be exceptional. It doesn't matter who you are in this world at the moment. The world has gotten more competitive. As one of my clients said to me recently, when he is having his kid interview to get into preschool, he knows the bar's been raised. The bar's been raised. To win on Wall Street these days, whether it be in hedge funds, in private equity, in banking, you have to be exceptional. How do you do that? You have to be willing to take risk. I'm not talking about the sort of risk that is necessarily starting your own business or starting your own firm. Look at folks like Ray Dalio. This is what they did decades ago. When people look at the success they've created today, it all goes back to what they were doing decades ago. And it comes down to a willingness to take risk. And risk is defined in many different ways. Risk is committing yourself to getting promoted. I truly want to make partner. Bang. Then what? One of the techniques I use with people to get promoted is they need to run an internal track. Inside your firm, you need to convince people to promote you. One of those steps is to go to them and say, I want you to promote me. And what happens when you do that? You run the risk they don't. You run the risk that when you come back at the end of the year, if you didn't get promoted, people say, oh, you really wanted to get promoted and you didn't. That's risky for people. So they hang back, they hold back, and they say, well, we'll see if it happens. They don't really go for it. And there's greater risk in that, which is you don't get what you want. And my world is all about getting what you want. If you're going to work every day, you might as well have that job work for you. I think of your vehicle as your career as your vehicle for your life. If your career is getting you what you want in your life, then it's working. And that's what my work's about, tools that make it feel comfortable. If you can take that risk, there's only one way you'll do that, when you believe that you can succeed at it. My work is all about empowering you to feel comfortable, not with nice words, process and skills, getting better and better and better. People who become exceptional investors are not exceptional because they read a couple books here and there. They're exceptional because they're focusing on their process, getting better each year. Every investment. Many investors are terrible. Many investors are terrible. And one of the reasons is because they have a confirmatory bias. Whatever they believed before, they want to keep seeking out information to confirm that. The best investors in the world, they know why they win. And they check it. They check the feedback. They keep coming back to, did that work for me? Yes, great, do more of that. Did that? No, change it. They keep getting better and better. Process of continuous improvement. Why does this matter so much to me? This has become my mission for a reason, because we need you. The world needs people like you to do more. It's a horrible time right now, and nobody has solutions. Our government doesn't have solutions. Our government's fighting about a fiscal cliff that they can't even properly define, let alone solve. The recession, unemployment, these trading scandals on Wall Street. We need a better version of business people. And that better version of business people are people who are doing it for the right reasons, with the right intentions, the right values, and the right approach. It's not just about winning, it's about competing. It's about being the best you can be. And what does that mean? What does it mean? When I say to people we all need to do more, that everybody needs to do a little bit more. They say, well, what can I do? My answer is always the same, and it's this quote. It's one of my favorite quotes. Don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive. Because what the world needs is people who've come alive. Most of the people in the world are the walking dead. They're living in the grey. Living in the grey means this. Hey, how's your job? Oh, it's okay. Oh, it's okay. How are things at home? Oh, it's fine. What are you doing? What's going on? Are you having fun? Oh, it's okay. They're living in the grey. The inspired life is to have that passion for what you do, to truly know what brings you alive, and to live that, and enjoy that, and be that. When I left Wall Street, when I left Goldman Sachs, people thought I was nuts. I left Goldman Sachs at the top of the market. When I sat down with partners in my office, they said, why are you leaving? I said, because I don't want to be here anymore. Well, do you know you're on the partner track? Do you know how much money you're going to make this year? Yes. Well, why are you leaving? I don't want to be here anymore. Yeah, but you know how much money you're going to make? What did I do? I went and trained mixed martial arts for 18 months. I went and traveled. I went and hung out. I read a lot. I furthered my pursuit of doing what I want, coming more and more alive. When I left Carlyle, 3 years at Carlyle as a distressed debt investor, I had a great job through the cycle. When I left there, people thought I was nuts again. I had a conversation with one of my mentors, one of my former bosses, and he said to me, you know, I think you've gone off the deep end, man. Like, you've just gone off the deep end. What are you doing? Like, I felt good that you came back to Wall Street and now you seem to be losing it. Now that guy is one of my private clients because I did go off the deep end. Because I went off the deep end and found what I truly loved, pursued what I truly loved, and brought it back to them. I found things that they hadn't found. Because the answer is that what you're looking for, if it isn't right in front of you, it is off the deep end. It's somewhere where you've got to go look. And what I now bring back to them are tools and skills that they don't have on their own. Ways of thinking that they haven't accessed because they've stayed on track. And I'm doing what I love and pushing them to do what they love. If you're going to be an investment banker, be the best damn investment banker you can be. If you're going to be an investor, love it and love the art of investing. Don't be there because you're going to make this amount of money, because you know what? You're probably not. Hurdle rates on investments have come down. People who went into investing jobs to make money are like people who went into .com companies in 2000. They're standing around saying, I'm not going to make that money anymore. So is this what I really want? And they don't know because they haven't figured this out. It's not about looking out into the world at what's out there. It's about going inside and saying, what do you really want? And the harder question that most people won't ask their entire lives, including on their deathbed. Who are you? Who are you? Not your name, rank, and serial number, where you were born and what your birth date is. Who are you? What matters to you? What matters to you so much that you would be like Steve Jobs? Every breath, you would echo that voice. You would live it like it's your passion. Because your life should be like this. Your life should be that passion. Not living in the grey with the other zombies. So how do you come alive? What are the two concepts of coming alive? The first one is a great book by a guy named Robert Greene, and he wrote one of my favourite books, The 48 Laws of Power. If you're going to Wall Street, read The 48 Laws of Power. It's one of the best books you'll find on communications. And then he wrote this book with 50 Cent, The 50th Law, and it's one of the best books you'll read. It's a fantastic book. There's a concept in this book. Be fearless. Become fearless. To go after what you truly want in life, you have to become fearless. And I can tell you there's only two natural human fears. The fear of loud noises and the fear of falling. All the other fears are learned and they can be unlearned. The fear of failure, as you know, 3 centuries ago was death from starvation. That was failure. Failure wasn't what would people think of me if I tried to do this and I failed. It's irrelevant. It was irrelevant then, it's irrelevant now. And you can delete those fears if you choose. Become more fearless in your life. Most of the things that hold people back are nonsense. And as soon as you go into them, you can begin to change them. The second is this great book called Flow. I don't know if any of you have read this book. If you start to read any books on happiness, if you start to read any books on peak performance, this book is referenced over and over and over again. The flow state is the state where you're at your best. You know when they say an athlete's in the zone? That's the flow state. And where do you reach that point? You reach that point where the challenge is high, where you're engaged, where you're challenging yourself, you're pushing yourself, and where your skill level is high, where you have to utilize all of your resources and you're challenging yourself to utilize it. An athlete runs out on the field, they feel alive. Again, most people are the walking dead. Unless you're hanging out with different types of people. How many people are truly living and going after it and loving their life? The reason that people shy away from tough decisions, from going after something they really want, whether it's promotion or job or relationship, is because they don't think they can succeed at it. If you are certain that you can be successful at something, you'll go after it. Now, most of the crummy books will tell you stuff like, you've got to overcome your fears. You know, you've got to push through it. It's like that awful phrase that says, pain is weakness leaving the body, you know, like if you can grit your teeth, you'll be successful. It's all a bunch of BS. The answer is this: when you have the process and skills to succeed at something, you'll make that hard choice. When Steve Jobs got fired from Apple, what did he do? Went and started another company. Why? Because he kept betting on himself. Didn't need other people to believe in him. He didn't need other people to bet on him. He bet on himself. How many people do you know who truly bet on themselves? In my work, it comes down to process and skills. One of my clients wants to run his firm. He runs a division of a large bank. Wants to run the firm. Most people won't go after that type of goal because they don't think they can do it. In fact, when he said to me, you know, I want to run, he was joking. He said, well, what could you do for me? I said, what do you want? He said, I want to run the firm. And I said, how do you do that? He said, I just keep doing this. He said, do you have a better answer? I said, yeah. And now he's one of my clients. And will he be able to run the firm? I don't know. When he came to me, maybe it was a 1% probability. Maybe it's a 15 now. And the way we do it is all this, process and skills. How do you go after something that's a big goal? You develop your approach to doing it. In the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books I read when I stepped back from my career, I wasn't just looking for what Winston Churchill said, or Benjamin Franklin, or Napoleon Hill, or Donald Trump, or anyone else who had created success. It didn't matter to me what those individual ideas are. They're all valuable, but I was looking for something more powerful, which is how do you do it? And how do you take that and break it down and turn it into a model? The two secrets of getting what you want in life, getting what you want in your career, getting what you want in pretty much every facet of your life. Definitive purpose. Knowing what you want. There's a secret here. Most people, when you ask them, do you know what you want? They start telling you what they don't want. Many people don't know what they want, let alone can you define it in a way you can create a process to get it. And that's the second part, a system to get what you want. A great quote by the Dilbert creator, Scott Adams. Losers have goals, winners have systems. It's like manufacturing a car. How do you manufacture a car? It's not a bunch of bolts and, you know, it comes together as a car. It's just a process. It's a system, you know. Every step of the way you add to that car, and by the time it comes off the manufacturing line, it's a car. When you can define everything in your life as a system, when you take your career and break it down, people are going to leave business school and go into banking jobs. They're going to show up as an associate. They're going to look around, they're going to look like every other associate. They'll go to a meeting, they'll meet other associates from other firms. What do you do that's different? How are you going to succeed at that? If everyone succeeds, you will succeed with them. But what's your system to succeed at that? And this is my system. This is my process. I call this the system of getting what you want. Whatever it is. I've applied this to many different things in my life and in my career. Define what you want. The second step I call getting it. You know, in the world they say, oh, that person gets it and that person doesn't get it. I'll give you a definition of what I mean by get it. Plan it, execute it, and then develop the skills to do it. Because whether you've got the best process in the world, it doesn't matter if you personally don't have the skills to do it. Much of what I'm going to talk about in the next part of the presentation is how do you actually put this stuff to work? And part of it is that when you leave business school and you've learned a lot, the real question is, what are you going to keep learning? Are you a lifelong learner? And are you going to develop the skills? I say with communication skills, everyone knows how to speak, but very few people know how to truly communicate. To communicate with impact. To walk into a room and get what you want. Define it. The key theme we've been talking about. How do you know what you want? Many people don't know what they want. And I spent 10 years on this question. When I stepped back in Menlo Park, I created a document. What do I want? I worked on that for 10 years. I didn't get any answers. It's not a question that leads you to answers. It's a great book by Barry Schwartz called The Paradox of Choice. Choice is the greatest gift in our society right now. We have infinite choice compared to our parents and grandparents and their parents. But it creates a paradox, creates decision paralysis. We don't make a choice because you don't know which choice to make. And decision regret. You choose this path and you spend the next 10 years saying, oh, why didn't I choose this path? And so becoming proficient at choice is very important to defining what you want. People say to me, should I stay in banking or go to private equity? Should I retire or not? One of my clients came to me and said, should I retire or not? My answer is always the same, yes, yes, yes. Well, what do you mean? Should I stay in banking and go to private equity? Yes. Yes means commit to it. People end up stuck at that intersection rather than moving along either path. Commit to either path. And do answer yes. Every time you use the word yes, you move forward. One of the key techniques in selling are what are called agreement frames or yes sets. Oh, you want a blue car? Yes. Every time that person says yes, they're acknowledging that. You want a blue car? Yes. And you want a car that's priced right? Yes. And you want a car that's priced right and it's blue and it really is the sort of car that makes your family feel safe? Yes. Oh, well, here's the car for you. Every time you say yes to yourself and every time you get someone else to say yes, you move the process along. And it works the same way as you're defining what you want in your life. What I call it is navigating uncertainty. As long as you can keep navigating uncertainty and moving towards what you want, you're answering the question, what do I want? Because when was the last time you got what you wanted and you just stopped? Never happens. They say people in their 70s are saying they don't know what I'm going to do when I grow up. These are two frameworks that I teach people that help navigate this uncertainty. The first, I say there's two types of careers, objective and passion-based. And it's all good. There's a lot of babble on careers, a lot of nonsense like passion and purpose and meaning. You know, people say to me, so you've read all these books, what do you think is the meaning of life? I mean, these are all just dumb questions to me. What's meaningful to you today? What's purposeful to you today? Make the question smaller. For centuries, philosophers have been asking these big questions. And it's not a matter of whether you can ask the question, it's a matter of whether you can put that knowledge to work. The second thing, which looks like some mountains, I call a career life cycle. And it says this, I say, you know, as you're leaving business school, you might be saying, well, I've got to make the right choice. Well, if I go here or if I go there. And each time in life we're forced to make a choice like that, we turn into a crossroad. And in our minds, this is the choice of our lives. Look back in your life. The last time you made one of those choices, 5 years later, it doesn't really seem that way. The career life cycle says you might have many careers. It's a job. A career is your entire life. Retirement is where people go to die. Most people who retire are bored out of their brains. Retirement is for our generation, for the intellectual generation. Retirement is, how do you stay active? What do you want to do? That's just a different step on the life cycle. For me, I had a career on Wall Street. Every 2 years I changed my job at Goldman. I had 4 jobs in 8 years at Goldman because I got bored. When that learning curve flattened out, I didn't want to be there anymore. On the buy side, in distressed investing, you know, it was a fun job. I enjoyed it a lot. After 3 years, didn't feel like there was a whole bunch more for me to learn. It wasn't particularly challenging for me anymore. I wanted to move on to something new. Where I am today is starting on a different curve. And I like that. I like it when the learning curve is steep. And the more you think about your career as evolving over time, the more freedom you have to choose. And this is a framework I use for that. I call it the dual track roadmap. What it says is this: wherever you are today, execute on that track and go for it on that track. Do I want to be in banking or do I want to go to private equity? Yes, you're in banking. Whether you're in banking 10 years from now, I don't know. But if you're in banking today, execute on that track and go for it. Really engage yourself in that, because that's where you come alive. That's where you create options for yourself. Options today to change jobs. Very few good jobs are ever advertised. You create those options by engaging in what you're doing today and keep that other track alive. Steve Jobs quote, got to find what you love. So how do you do that? I wasn't built like Steve Jobs either. I spent 10 years on Wall Street doing this work. Wall Street by day, all of this by night. People say, that's a lot of effort to be doing your track and also thinking about all the other stuff. It is a lot of effort. But what matters to you? Is it to go home and watch TV, get on Facebook or Twitter or some other waste of time? Or is it to keep creating the life that you truly want? And it's hard. It's the harder path. But it's the real path. It's a path where you will create a life that you truly want. This is another framework I use. I say, love the one you're with. Wherever you are today, you have to love your life, wherever you are today. If you hate banking and you want to be in private equity, it just harms you today. Love the one you're with. One of the best books I think ever written is a book called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And it's all about the now. You are living in the now. Whatever future you have is going to happen in that now. Whatever past you had is relevant only to the extent you're experiencing it in the now. Love the one you're with. It says wherever you are today, love that life that you have. And keep moving towards the life you want. It's not either or, it's yes, it's both. Love the one you're with and keep moving towards what you want. Because that feeling that keeps you moving towards it. And one of the concepts of unhappiness that we have, there's all these books on happiness. A lot of that thinking's bogus too. It's about engagement. When you engage in your life and you're present in the now, topics like happiness don't matter. Happiness is a thought. Am I happy? Yeah. Oh, how could you be more happy? Oh, well, if I had this, I could be more happy. And then the mind starts running. Stop all that and just be present where you are. Engage in what you're doing. Your life feels that way. Engaged. So let's get practical. This is one of the questions. This was the question that client asked me. He said, I want to run the firm. How do I do that? And I actually turned it into a program that I call To the Top. How do you make managing director? How do you make partner? So how do you apply this framework, the system to getting what you want? Define it. This is our defined goal. How do you make it to the top? The next step is getting it. What does it truly mean to get it? Getting it, I say, is the intelligence behind the process. This is where you do all the smart thinking. You say, well, if I'm trying to get here, how do I do that? And I say there are 3 steps to getting it. The frameworks, the principles, and what I call the strategies. What are the frameworks? Frameworks I otherwise call the models of success. To get good at something, go and look at other people who are truly exceptional at it. Look at the established paths that other people have already walked. They're the models of success. And I say the models of success are like lingerie models. You want as many of them around as possible. And look at all these people in the world. What makes them exceptional? What do they do that's exceptional that you can model for yourself? And I've done this. This is what I did when I stepped back in my career. I'm at Goldman, I'm an associate. I say, how do I create options? Half the office is laid off. Most people are saying, hold on to your job. I'm saying, no. I didn't come to Wall Street to hold on to my job. I want to keep creating the life I truly want. So I started modeling success. What do the top investment bankers do? And then I took a job as the staffer, working with all the bankers across the region, which gave me insight, direct injection into the minds of all the bankers, those who were winning and those who weren't. What do the best on the street do, and how do you do that too? The second step is the principles of getting it. I come back to Ray Dalio a lot because I like that guy, not because he runs the largest hedge fund in the world, because he's fabulously successful, but because of the way he thinks. The reason that he's created the life he has, the success he has, is because of the way he thinks. And if you want to see how he thinks, he's got this document online called Principles. The whole concept of principles is this: when you understand the principles to success, you only need to put those to work. If you walk around an investment bank and you ask 100 people, how do you win at this? You'll come back with a list of 100 ideas. Having 100 ideas of what it takes to succeed is not getting it. It's not getting it. Getting it is when you take those ideas and you generalize them, and you aggregate them, and you distill them down to the things that truly matter. It's like time management. The book's on time management. You know, 1,000 productivity tips that'll save you 3 minutes a day. That's not getting it. Getting it is the principles of time management. The number one principle of time management that I teach my clients: shift your time to its highest value use. Forget about all the other ideas. Just keep shifting your time to its highest value use. Time is the most valuable commodity that we have. The 5 principles of getting what you want on Wall Street. Performance. You have to nail performance. If you ask people, what does it take to succeed? They'll give you random ideas. Most of them are performance. Performance just means know what it takes to win and be good at it. Number 2 is people. It's a people business. So get good with people. Not just good, get exceptional with people. 3 is process. Be very good at process. Very good at process. By the way, notice how generalizable these are to being good in school. These are ideas that can be fitted to a lot of different things. Number 4, control your destiny. In a bank, in a hedge fund, in a private equity firm, in any career, the worst thing you can do is let someone else drive your career. Because they're not driving it, they're driving their own career. Number 5, manage feedback. What I call feed forward. The greatest mistake people make in a bank, they wait till the end of the year to get their reviews. I train my clients, senior guys, to manage their reviews by feeding forward. How do you get great reviews? Well, during the year you tell people. You say, oh, you know, I'm really working on this, so if you've got any insights, let me know. I'm really focused on stepping it up with clients. What do you think appears in your review at the end of the year? You've fed forward what you want. You've fed forward your performance, and other people will reflect that in your reviews. Reviews aren't designed to give you feedback. They're designed to monitor you for other people. So manage that process for yourself. And then this is the 3rd step of getting it. This is what I say: how are you being Iron Man or woman? How are you being Iron Man? To get it means to understand the models of success. What does Ray Dalio do? What does Marissa Mayer do? The principles, break it down so you understand what it takes to succeed. This step is the most important. Own it. Make it fitted to you. The reason I use Iron Man is because when Tony Stark steps into that suit, it's fitted to him. It's built for him. To truly get it means to build your strategy that's built for you, to succeed for you. We don't need another Ray Dalio in the world. What we need is Ray Dalio's tools as applied to you, what you do exceptionally well. So that's getting it. The next step, which I'm not going to spend any time on, is plan it. Plan your career and own it. This is, how do you get to the top? And it's all incredibly logical. In fact, actually very simple. Yet how many people do you know who've ever done this? How do you get to the top? 3 tracks: internal, external, and your own development. Internal means if you want to get promoted, there's only a handful of people who are responsible for that inside your firm. How do you influence them to promote you? And it's not just tools of communications and influence. It is. I like those tools. They're fun to me. But it's about what are they measuring you by? How do you run your internal track? External. No matter what level you're at, whether you're an associate or a partner, you have to be commercially successful. That's about your external track. You is about some of the stuff we're talking about, development. Become a partner level operator. If you're already operating at the level of a partner because you built those skills, it's easy to get promoted. Why? Because you're not going to them like, you know, glass half full, please can you promote me? You're saying, I'm already doing the job of a partner. Becomes inevitable. Success becomes inevitable. And when you plan and execute, you keep testing. Plan, execute, test. Is it working for you? Plan, execute, test, over and over again. It's a process of continuous improvement. Learning. This is getting skills. Many people I know don't read. They read useless stuff like the news and newspapers. You know, they fill their minds with information, but they don't fill their minds with knowledge. They don't fill their minds with skills. Leaders are readers, and that means they read books, they develop skills. Leaders are lifelong learners. This great book, Peak Performers, leaders never stop searching and learning. And that means continually growing your skills, developing your skills. And in fact, one of the 7 life skills, I say, is learning. Development is a skill. When you learn that skill and you cultivate the desire to learn. There's a reason, by the way, a lot of people don't learn, because it requires this one step. To get good at things, you have to be bad at things. You have to be cool with that. When I walked into a mixed martial arts gym, I trained Muay Thai for a bunch of years. I'd never done jiu-jitsu. I got my butt kicked over and over again. Enjoy that process and keep starting over and over again, developing skills. And then there's a series of steps you take to develop those skills. What I call the process of learning. What is your process of learning? People try and learn communication skills by reading a book. They read the book, they read at the rate of an average person, 250 words a minute. If you're going to get serious about learning, you learn to speed read. That's the first step. That's easy. Read a book in 3 hours. Develop those skills. In the process of learning, review and practices. Put it to work. Practice it over and over again. Become exceptional at what you do. What skills do you learn? These are what I call the 4 Wall Street skills. Time management, communications, selling. Many people don't have a negative connotation with selling. To me, selling is the most important skill in life. Every day you're selling yourself. Every day you're selling your ideas. That might be to your spouse, it might be in a class, it might be inside your firm, it might be to a client. Mindset. People say to me, that's a soft skill. Mindset is the most hardcore skill that I've learned. And I mean mindset like an athlete has mindset. Every time an athlete steps onto the track, they've run that race thousands of times in their mind. The body will give up way before, the mind will give up way before the body. The body is strong, the mind is weak. When you train your mind to be strong, you can do so many things that you didn't previously think you could do. And so how do you do that is a different question. But these are the 4 skills that, to me, all come down to the same topic of impact. How do you have the most impact that you can imagine? Time management is not about productivity, it's about impact. If you run a group at Goldman Sachs, it's not a matter of how you spend your time, it's a matter of, is the time you're spending at work being used to the most impact? If you're running that group, your job is to drive the business and drive the group internally. Every time you're on email, you're wasting time. Delegate that. Delegate tasks. There are so many things that you can delegate and get rid of because they're low impact. And it relates to everything in your life. Communication, skills, and selling. To the extent you can cultivate these skills, you create your own destiny. One of the things I created a program for is called Getting the Job. How do you walk in and get the job? Communications and influence and selling. I got 2 great jobs having not worked for 18 months, having never been on the buy side. I walked into 2 job interviews with 2 great firms and got both jobs. They told, one of the job that I got told me afterwards, you were the worst candidate on paper, but you just interviewed better than everyone else. How did you do that? I didn't tell him. The answer was I spent 500 hours doing it, training myself to walk in and get the job. Getting the job becomes a process of skills. Those 500 hours were on top of having trained these sorts of skills for years. When you can walk in and do those things in a meeting, they've never met anyone like you. When my clients walk into a business meeting, they run a process in that meeting. It's always these steps. What's their intent? You showed up at a meeting for a merger deal. What's your intention? Truly, is it to just have a good meeting? No, you have got an intention. What's your character? Who are you in that meeting? Who are you? Are you just you? No. You're whatever version of you achieves your goal. 3, state. What's your emotional state? When you get good at communications, you realize has very little to do with the content. It's the underlying process to what you say. It's your emotional state. It's the journey you take someone on. 4, tools. What are your tools? What are your skills? Conversational frames, metaphors, flow of language. Tools to build rapport, conscious and unconscious influence. When you learn these skills, you're able to do things in meetings that other people don't even know other people do. That's the process of getting what you want. And I told you, it's only about these 2 things, process and skills. Now I'm going to tell you it's about a 3rd thing, action. It's one thing to have the greatest process in the world, the greatest skills in the world. Until you put it to work, until you take those actions, it's for naught. In Outliers, Malcolm Gladwell talks about how lucky a number of these tech entrepreneurs were being born in 1954-55. And it's true, he connects some good dots. And a few years ago, I saw Bill Gates on Larry King. And in that interview, Larry King said, what do you make of all this? You know, you were very lucky, right place, right time. Bill Gates said, that's true, I was very lucky. Yet the difference is that I took action. The real question on all of these topics, whether it's going for what you want, whether it's taking your career all the way to the top, whatever it is that you're doing, are you taking those actions? And what are 3 action steps that you can start taking now? Always moving yourself towards action. Because that's where you find that feeling too. Thoughts, feelings, actions. When you take an action, you think good thoughts. You feel good. How do you keep doing that? And I'll finish here with the same question we started with. When you find yourself with a series of choices, which choices do you take? Who are you? You're the sort of person who shows up at work and phones it in? Sort of person who's an associate in banking all the way through MD saying maybe I'm going to go to private equity? Or you're the sort of person who goes for it, who commits to what you're doing and commits to the life you truly want. And when you do that, you ask yourself, are you doing hard things? Do you want to succeed? Truly succeed? Do you believe you can? Are you willing to become exceptional? That requires learning, it requires effort, it requires doing things that most people don't want to do. Are you willing to become exceptional? And will you take risk? Doesn't mean crazy Steve Jobs type risk. What risk can you take? Commitment is risk. So this was a topic I was going to talk about, but I didn't, which is how do you get the job you truly want? Go to my website and I have a program on there. All of my programs, I develop free programs. And so you can go and learn my system, my process for getting the job. Again, it's very, very simple. And if you put 500 hours to it, you'll probably get the job. Most people don't. Yet when you roll out that process and you execute on that process, you position yourself in ways other people will never be positioned. If you want a copy of this presentation, you can text this number now. And it should work, although I can't guarantee it, because it's technology, you know.